What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous Mr. Grant Hughes. We are gathered here today to draft our biggest NBA X Factors for the rest of this season. Could be through the playoffs, just the regular season, bonus points if there's big picture slants involved here. Well, I don't think we've done an X Factor draft before. Everyone talks about them around the playoffs. We're gonna do them. We're gonna do them now because that's how we roll. Mr. Grant Hughes, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm just filling out my big board right now so that I know the top 5 picks that I want to make and hope that you don't snag any of them from me. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. I want you to know that I will never try to make you into Clint Capella. I think more highly of you than that.
I would also like you to know that we are going to debut. This is a merch promotion, a new HardwoodKnocks item, but I have D-Money's Crunk Juice here on screen. It's a limited edition sicko flavor, so you can't get it. It's going to be in stores, available on our merch shop. Link in the podcast YouTube description. It's going to turn you into a superhero. There might be ungodly amounts of caffeine in it, but D-Money's Crunk Juice, not live at the HardwoodKnocks shop.
I feel like the people should know that I didn't have the DeAndre Ayton response to your "How are you doing?" bit planned at all, and then you simultaneously had a DeAndre Ayton related physical prop.
If you're only listening, ready. I created a label, high tech really label here.
That looks like a ransom note.
I imagine that so does DeAndre Ayton's water bottle.
Yeah. Hopefully this will still be in the news cycle when people listen to this. Yeah, that was fun. I feel like I understand DeAndre Ayton now.
I understood him beforehand because the timeline guys were all over this while he was in Phoenix. But I will say, do you ever feel bad? Because Dave McMenamin wrote a hell of a piece. It's like this in-depth piece. And the only two things people are going to remember from it are the Clint Capella and the Crunk Juice anecdote.
Well, and the multiple personalities that he speaks to teammates in. That's good. That
Alejandro.
That one stuck with me. Do you want to walk back your DeAndre Ayton can't get out of his driveway because of snow and won't buy a bed not being a big deal now? Because you were always like, I don't care about that. And now I'm like, it's just part of the pattern, picture, man.
It's evidence of a pattern. Yeah. Well, hold on. Was it DeAndre Ayton wasn't able to get it, or was it Alejandro? Couldn't figure out how to get the
Great question. Maybe they're not.
We need Pablo Torre finds out, needs to get on this and the Kevin Durant burner gate.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, his teammates already know what it is.
Yeah.
Which is for DeAndre Ayton. So there you go.
They do know what it is.
But X Factor. So do you you will have the first pick because I am a kind, generous person. But anything you want to get off your chest with regards to how I think we approach this in the same way, but we do have different big boards. I don't know who you're going to pick. You don't know who I'm going to pick. So how did you approach this?
First of all, this Ayton diversion made me forget. I had a core 4 and I was just writing it down. And now I can't remember what my fourth one was. I'll have to come back. Oh, yep, just got it. Hold on, let me write that down. Thank you. And so we discussed this a little bit before. We're gonna so X Factor. One, what section of the season are we talking about? It's a little nebulous. It can be like the rest of the regular season as it relates to seeding or whatever. It can, in a lot of cases, it probably should have further reaching implications than that. So an X Factor can be someone that whose impact on a title chase matters, and we're not sure which way it's going to go. That's like the built-in part of the X Factor is like A could happen or B could happen, and there's a big difference in the team's outcome depending on which of those comes to pass, and we're not sure what it's going to look like. So we're going to try to stay away from Nikola Jokic is the Nuggets X Factor because he'll either be great or super great, and we're just going to try to avoid that kind of thing. But we'll also, I'm going to try to avoid, here's a ninth man that might really factor in, or going too far down the totem pole, or too far down. That would be my assessment of it. Do you have anything to add to what it is we're doing here today?
No, I would just add that. So I do have something to add. That there was some low hanging fruit I took, because if they're well established quote unquote X factors to where you could just say Joel Embiid's knee or Joel Embiid's health, I wouldn't use that as a default. But there are other players or instances where something like that I think could carry a ton of weight. So I did try to steer clear of, on my big board, the low hanging fruit of Joel Embiid is the perfect one, because health's the caveat for everyone, but Joel Embiid's health questions, they're not really standout anymore. Like those are baked into the Joel Embiid experience.
Yep, that's fair. I already know I'm going to make at least, well, I'm hoping to, depending on what you do, make at least 2 selections that are not like new issues, but I would say they are of renewed importance based on how things have gone this season. So will not be picking Embiid. He's not on the board for me, but somewhat similar situations might come up, I would say. That's a decent tease, I guess.
Well, why don't you get us started with stop teasing us, Grant, and give us your first pick?
I have them organized into tiers, so there's no actual first pick. There's like 4 or 5 that I am considering here. The one I think I want to talk about first, just because this team has been top of mind since they played the Pistons and looked so good earlier this week. Julian Champagnie for the San Antonio Spurs. To me, and we can talk more broadly about like sort of what it means that he's starting now over Harrison Barnes, because Barnes in theory gives you like a more conventional power forward size player. His shooting has always been solid, sometimes better than that. But putting Champagnie in a lineup now that also has Fox and Castle and Wembanyama and Vassell, that group collectively had not played a lot together all year. Vassell missed time. Castle has been in and out of the starting group. Having that 4 guards, those guys are all guards, with Wembanyama is a really interesting experiment, because one, it basically says we believe that Wembanyama is he can be the defense and we can put 4 guys. And Castle's a great defender. Like all those other guys are competent or better, with maybe Vassell as the exception. But the theory of that team is really different if it's 4 guards that can all shoot except for Castle and Wemby in the middle. And I support it. I think that's probably the way to go if you have a defender that can do what Wembanyama does. It just is going to depend on. So the reason Champagnie is an X factor is like the Spurs are kind of unbeatable if he's really hot. And him and Vassell were lights out against Detroit on Monday. Yep. That like you could talk all you want about like, oh, Wembanyama's defensive impact and the Pistons had a hard time. Yeah, those were all factors. But like if those 2 dudes aren't just scorching the whole game, the Pistons might have just won anyway. So Champagnie being a high volume, high accuracy shooter matters. And Vassell really, for that matter, does too. I think maybe Vassell is like a little better known commodity than Champagnie. But I just think his role on this team is like shockingly large based on where his career was like 18 months ago. And so you can't count on it for sure. I think he's going to be really good, and this lineup is going to work really well, but we don't know that.
Yeah, I'm with you on everything you said. He's also just kind of their only 3-and-D wing at this point. It's who else would you Harrison Barnes comes the closest to qualifying, unless you think it's Keldon Johnson. Then even that is, it's not Devin, and Devin Vassell's not even really big enough to be considered a wing. And so there's a lot on Julian Champagnie's shoulders, because this is just kind of it, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. This is someone who I look at him in a playoff context, and or even if the Spurs just want to get the number 1 seed, it's just absolutely something that needs to be on the floor every single close game down the stretch, because I know you have Wemby, but just for someone who won't compromise your offense, at least if he's going to be making shots, but also has the size to hold up positionally at like that spot. Yeah, he's essential. And the fact that they found him, and the deal is, everyone knows the con is stupid, under 2% of the salary cap or whatever, just dumb. So yeah, I think that's a really good pick. I did want to talk about, this isn't going to qualify as my first pick, but I want to talk a little bit about, Steph Castle qualifies as an X factor here too. Right? Yeah,
no, let's just as an aside, like anytime we have a secondary X factor issue with a team, we should just jump to that. So you're going to say what, like just the shooting, right? Like, is it good enough to stay on the floor because you need the defense out there?
Well, right. And it's, well, how much do you actually, because the offense is a lot worse with statistically with Steph Castle on the floor this season. And that's not a surprise. Now, he is shooting 45% from mid range. So, like, that's a weapon that not even Amen Thompson has right now when you're looking at his efficiency. At the same time, defenses already don't really pretend to care about leaving him open. He's shooting 32.8% on unguarded threes. That's a bottom 11 mark among 138 players who have taken at least 100 unguarded threes. And so while you do have that mid-range shot, that it's gone in at a reasonable clip this year, and he also just has like him getting downhill, the on-ball physicality and the coordination, even his off-ball relocation has gotten a lot better to me this season. I don't know if it's an issue, but my inquiry will be, what does this look like? It's the playoffs for him. We've seen what he can do in the regular season, and what happens if teams are going to put what the Spurs have done with Wemby, where he's on a shooting liability and he can roam. What happens when you do that to Steph Castle? What happens when defenses go further under his screens? And then at that point, if he can't create, if he can't hit that mid-range jumper, I'm not saying you take him out of the game, but then it's, well, now he's really relying on off-ball movement because you have to put the ball back in De'Aaron Fox's hands. And that's been another kind of workaround for the Spurs, is that De'Aaron Fox, I know people were saying he was a fake all-star, but like the work he's done off the ball, like being able to cede possessions and control a lot to Steph Castle, I think has made things a lot easier on the Spurs, navigating what is still a real challenge. And so the fact that Steph Castle, he could get to the foul line, but he's not going to be the most efficient shooter while he's there either. This is a positively impactful player. I just want to know if that scales the same to the playoffs, at least right now, because you could say 2-3 years down the line, Steph Castle is going to be better. Maybe he is a better shooter, or they just figure out more ways to use him, and he is impacting the game at a high level in the playoffs. But for this first sort of go round, his debut in the postseason, I'm going to be fascinated to see how he actually fares.
It's a class of playoff question that's like oft discussed and has been for a long time. It's like, spoiler, that exact issue is going to come up in some other X factors we will discuss shortly. Like the guard or wing that defenses don't care about. Like that is you can get away with it in the regular season. It's a playoff problem. I think a couple things for me. One is the trade-off is still, again, the playoffs might prove this to be no longer the case, but at least for now, I think the trade-off is just such a net positive, because the way that again, the Pistons game is, maybe the most consequential game of the last few weeks. And so it's top of mind for me. The way that he changes the tenor of the game is like palpable because of how aggressive he is on both ends of the floor, the defensive intensity, the just like put the shoulder down and get the and one finish over a bigger player, like off a 2-foot plant at the back. Like that kind of stuff is like that. There were a couple plays like that that really did make a difference in like the next 10 possessions of the game because the Spurs were so energized by it. So like that kind of stuff maybe matters less in the playoffs when everyone's playing their ass off. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like what we used to say about the Knicks and Tibbs is like, they're throwing their fastball all the time. So like in the playoffs, they're not different, but everybody else is. Maybe that matters. The other thing that's different though, is like one of the obvious solves for a player like Castle is like, we'll just put our center on him and then he can roam and protect the basket. Like you can't do that because you have to have a center on Wembanyama. So if you have to put a guard or a forward on Castle, it creates maybe a more solvable set of problems for the Spurs offense. Because if you can put a center on him and the center gets to play free safety, like that's an issue. It's just less of one if you can't get away with that. And I don't think that you can, without paying a heavy price, not have a center on Wembanyama. Maybe you played two bigs, I don't know, but like, you know what I mean? It's a little different because of Wemby. You can't get away with somebody that's not tall on Wembanyama. It's like just a non-starter to me.
I'm just wondering if teams like, if it's Houston, if it's OKC, maybe could Minnesota do that? If you're okay with Julius Randle handling some Wemby responsibilities, could you get away with doing that with Rudy Gobert?
Maybe. I don't know. I would be reluctant to try. I'd be like, as we get to some other guys, that have a similar problem. I just feel more comfortable. Just Wemby's presence just kind of changes the calculus, I guess. Big revelation there.
It feels lower stakes than some of the other players that have the same issues because you have Wemby, but also some of these other outlets. Also kind of reinforces the importance of Champagnie, just that extra spacing to have, like if Steph Cat, you need him to get downhill. That's going to be huge for him as well. My pick, so my first official pick, I'm going to go with Scoot Henderson of the Portland Trailblazers. We don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. They're definitely going to be a play-in team, but it doesn't seem like the timeline on Shaedon Sharpe coming back is hazy, and he might just be out the rest of the regular season. Denny Avdia banged up, and now he's missing time. Scoot has missed most of the season. Would you care to guess how many minutes we've seen with Scoot on the floor alongside Denny Avdia and Donovan Clingan?
Oh, I mean, it's how many minutes? It's not triple digits. I would feel confident saying that.
It is 13.
Okay.
And Donovan Clingan even missed their game against the Bulls the other night. This is just, there's so much at stake here. One, if we look at just the scope of this season, the Blazers need more offensive dynamism. And Scoot, in theory, can provide that. I don't know if we're ever going to feel okay with him as a pull-up jump shooter or just a shooter, but I'm comfortable enough to where it's, if you've looked with some of the minutes he's played with Drew Holiday, you've seen the way that he's been able to lift up out of the corner without the ball, or if he's just going to come around, snake a ball screen and take a pull-up 2 or take a pull-up 3. I think that shot, I don't know if he'll ever be elite at it, but we're not asking him to take like these wild LaMelo Ball off the dribble jumpers. I think he needs that ball screen, and I think that that'll be a reasonable play for him. I'm really going to be monitoring his finishing around the basket for 2 reasons. Portland's spacing isn't exactly pristine, but I do love the idea of Donovan. If Donovan Clingan is your big, or it's Robert Williams III, what's like the best shooting lineup we could surround him with? And let's give Scoot space to operate there. He is shooting, sample size is so small, 69.2% in the half court at the rim. And he's had like a couple of really nifty finishes, like some reverses, some just like over the trees. If the finishing part of his game can be there, if he's someone who can also generate more free throws, I really do think this changes a lot for the Blazers in general, just as the theory of a team. But I don't know how much meaning, this will get me to my bigger picture question, that you're willing to assign to it if we're only going to get, basically, we'll call it the post-All-Star stretch, even though he returned before then. He's extension eligible. So what are you going to pay? How important is he to your team right now? And then how much harder does it get to figure out his importance when Shaedon Sharpe might not play again this year? And so it's just like, we have not seen Denny Avdia, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, like these guys have not played a ton of time together. And we haven't seen, like, throwing Drew Holiday into the fold. I like some of the minutes from what I've seen when Scoot Henderson's on the floor with Drew Holiday. And so I'm not worried about, can Scoot play with other guys who need the ball? I think him and Denny Avdia could have a symbiotic relationship on the court. Sure. But I don't know what Scoot is at this point. And injuries are part of that. The way that the Blazers have been run, they've been caught in these sort of weird spaces the past 2+ seasons, has contributed to that as well. But we're coming up on, he's extension eligible or he's going to be a restricted free agent. And the Blazers are also this team that's decided we're done rebuilding, basically. Like it wasn't just the Denny Avdia trade. Then you go and get Drew Holiday. And look, all this stuff has worked out quite well for them. Drew Holiday, Denny Avdia, the whole 9. But this doesn't seem like a team that's prepared to take a step back to try and take a step forward. So they're either going to make trades or be aggressive somewhere or hope that someone internally pops. Can that be Scoot for the rest of this season? And again, even if it is, what does that mean for, like, how can you say, well, yeah, like, let's extend, like, this is going to work? And I don't know that you can, because the sample size, one, in general, is going to be large enough, but the sample size of your most important players together is certainly not going to be large enough if it even exists.
I think the most interesting aspect of this is the extension question, which sort of speaks to how, like, the Scoot thing is not, his X factor status to me is not really about this season or whatever passes for the Blazers postseason. It's more of like, what's this team supposed to be? And like soon, because Avdia is an all NBA caliber player now. and you've got like expensive veterans that are on this roster, I think the short answer is like there will be no extension, because I think Portland can just say we don't have anything close to enough information to like make a real offer. So it'll be a low ball, and then Scoot, I think, will rightly be like, I will just happily test restricted free agency next summer. Hopefully after I've finally stayed healthy and like found what it is I'm supposed to really do here. I do think like his 3-point attempt frequency, his free throw attempt frequency, those are all career highs. The finishing at close range was like shockingly bad for how explosive he looked as a prospect. Certainly as a rookie, is like 50% inside 3 feet, which is like, okay, he's a guard, but like that's untenable. And then like 59 last year, and he's up over 70% this year inside. So like there are some real signs, I think. Then you say, well, it's been like 8 games as we're recording this. So what does any of that mean? I think maybe the core question that would inform like an extension amount, for example, won't be answered this year, but it's like, what's his value if he is a secondary creator in an offense run by Avdia? What is that? Like, does that even make sense based on his skill set? And is he willing to accept that? Because if he is, then like, I'm kind of on board, like with him as maybe a running off screens on the weak side, attacking against a shifting defense, not like an every down quarterback spamming pick and rolls type of thing. I could get behind that. I don't know if he could. I don't know what Portland thinks about that ultimately. Like maybe you could make the case on the flip side that like Avdia has been incredible, like blown away everyone's expectations as a generator of offense, but like, is that really the path forward on a team that's much better than we are? Like, is it Scoot that we need to see as the primary guy, and Avdia is the one that is like a massive luxury 1B? Like, I don't know. My inclination is that this is going to be Avdia's offense, and Scoot needs to fit into it. But like the draft pedigree does not align with that, and the expectations of what Scoot was going to be don't align with that. So great X factor pick. Through a longer lens, though, I think.
And even if he's good, what do you do with, you have Damian Lillard, Shaedon Sharpe, Drew Holiday, and Scoot, who's coming off the bench? And then also, you could have said, forget the starting 5 stuff, which Scoot did start against the Bulls the other night. Who's closing games? Because my whole thing with the Blazers is you're locked into a play-in spot. I feel like Scoot should be getting these crunch time reps. And then Chicago, it did go into crunch time because #cardiac Bulls, but they went centerless, and like Sidi Sissoko and Tamani Kamara and Drew Holiday and Chris Murray, and I think it was Jeremy Grant were on the floor, and it feels like that would have been a good opportunity to get Scoot like some more run in like the closer minutes. And I don't know, I'm sure he's on his minutes restriction for now, but that seems like a situation where maybe you want to save some of those minutes for. But that's the other thing you need to see is, and now with Avdia injured and Sharp injured as well, get like as much of the lead guard stuff. You want to see, definitely play him next to Drew Holiday a ton so you get a better sense of how he's going to play off some of the other guys on this team. What's the chemistry with Donovan Clingan look like? Because he's kind of if Donovan Clingan wants to pick and pop, like that might be more intuitive for Scoop. Like the way Donovan Clingan plays, I don't know that he's like the best big, like Robert Williams III feels like a better big man complement for what Scoot Henderson is supposed to be. But to that point, you mentioned Scoot's explosion. He's not moving the same way as he was coming out of the draft. And yet this is the best his finishing at the basket has ever been. So maybe there is something to that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's wild that like we're gonna get to his 4th year as an NBA player and have less of an idea about what kind of career he's gonna have. At least I will. Maybe some people have made their minds up. I haven't yet, but like I feel like I would have been more declarative about what I thought he was going to be before he played an NBA game. I definitely was.
You were higher on him than you. I think you said you were higher on him than John Morant.
I just thought like this is a can't miss, and that was obviously, I think that was wrong, but I'm not even sure.
Well, let's say he's willing to sign 4 for $100.
I don't
got 4 for 90. You can't offer.
I don't think you can offer him more than Sharp, just based on what you've seen so far. If you're the Blazers, like how do you justify that? And if you're Scoot, this is the other thing.
Dreams.
If you're Scoot, you're like not enough. Like so I don't know what the number is where everybody's.
I don't know. With some of the injuries he's already dealt with, I'm 4 for $100. I might just take.
We'll see. I don't know. This is just, it has to go to restricted free agency. I just think it has to.
Who's your next pick?
I'm going to go Aaron Gordon on the Denver Nuggets. This is like probably, this kind of goes against a couple of X Factor like rules in that he's an established veteran. And he's probably too good to really be a true X Factor, but his importance to Denver can't be overstated. I would go so far as to say they absolutely cannot win a championship, probably cannot make the finals if he's not healthy and really good throughout their playoff run. So his ability to like tip the scales is immense of like the non-superstar class of players. Much has been made of Nikola Jokic's, like, it feels like his actual defensive play is now matching up to the reputation he got early in his career of like, you can't build a championship defense around this player. Like they won that title in 23 with like a 17th ranked defense and their 21st or 23rd this year. And this is also the first year that opponents have attempted a higher share of shots at the rim when he's on the floor than off. They're hitting him at like 65% when he's so it's like, there's some real signs that the defense is not going to be good enough. Mm-hmm. If you could tell me Aaron Gordon is going to be healthy for the whole postseason, I'd be like, I don't care. It's going to be fine. As I think he matters that much to what they do defensively. The reason he's an X factor is he's had multiple hamstring injuries this year. He played 50 games last year and got hurt in the playoffs. And maybe is just at a phase where it's like, you have to assume he won't be healthy. I don't want to get to that point yet because that's such a doom and gloom thing, but like it has to be like a real consideration. So he, to me, is like outside of the superstar class of players, is like the make or break guy for Denver. I don't really care about the rest of the regular season. Their seeding matters, but it's not, that's not make or break. But as a playoff team, they're cooked if he is not on the floor playing normal minutes like the entire time. So hard for me to think of somebody that is potentially going to matter more.
I think because of the injuries, this is a great pick. And also because of how important he clearly still is to the defense. And I think they always would have had this problem, like who is the guy that's just going to be there other than Aaron Gordon that can just be physical in a dude's face, but also keep up with him, but also be this smart off-ball defender. Yeah. Who has the same positional malleability? Is Spencer Jones or Bruce Brown? Like, is that Peyton Watson's more of a defensive playmaker and disruptor. Christian Brown there's like just certain guys and matchups you don't want him going up against. They're also just, their defensive rating is more than 8 points better when Aaron Gordon is on the floor. Their half-court defense is way better. He absolutely matters, and I'm with you. If he's not healthy, the other thing too is just we saw his 3-point shooting kind of keep them in a series against the eventual champion last year while he was injured, while Michael Porter Jr. was injured. So there's that swing factor from him as well as the offense. Is what if he just is the greatest postseason 3-point shooter alive now?
I mean, he had 50 earlier this year and made like 10, 11 threes, whatever it was. Like he can do that. And also he's the most important defensive player, like in the conference, man. Like, I don't know. It's just like, how do you overstate his importance? It's pretty hard.
If he's available, I do think their defense would be good enough to win the championship because this was said on, I think it was a recent DNVR show. Can't remember who said it. It was probably Adam Mares because he says a lot of smart shit. But he believes that the Denver Nuggets defense is better when they have time to prepare for an opponent. And you just don't have that same preparation time during the regular season. So I was just looking. And again, the sample size isn't huge because you don't get this much rest in season. But the Nuggets have a top 10 defense when they have at least 2 days of rest.
Interesting.
And so now you're not going to get a full 2 days like in every playoff series, but you're going to practice probably or just have more. You're going through the same opponent. And so it's all right. You're not getting 3 days of rest in between every game, but we know that we're playing Minnesota like for the next 7 games. And so that's why I'd be less worried. It's more to me about, is Aaron Gordon available? Is he healthy?
Yep.
My next pick. All right, I'm going to go here. I'm going to Anthony Black of the Orlando Magic. We all called sus when Franz Wagner played in that game in Germany, only to never be heard from again. Now he's just still out and going to be out indefinitely, basically. Paolo Banchero started to play better, and I know I'm like forever a Paolo Banchero defender, but I still think he catches too much shit. Like even the ball stopping thing. I was watching, can't remember what was their most recent game of them I saw. He's getting off the ball so much. When you look, and I went and looked at his touch time, he's trying to get off the ball quicker.
Okay.
And I also still just feel like the shots that he takes that a lot of people don't like, they're also just a symptom of the Orlando Magic's offense and personnel. But to that point, you have Paolo Banchero, you have Desmond Bane. If Franz Wagner isn't available, Anthony Black's offense has become so important to this team, and he has cooled off a bunch since the All-Star break, basically. Still, if he's someone that you could trust to hit corner threes, make some passes out of drives, handle the ball, like he's just handling the ball with a lot more swagger this year, and then you know what he's going to be able to bring you defensively, that matters so much to this team right now. And it's for the rest of this season, because guess what? Franz Wagner's not playing. The Magic, as we record this, are in play-in territory. And so you would prefer, just given how banged up they are, how up and down, and that's putting it kindly, their offense has been, you want to avoid that. And so, yeah, the playoffs will matter. Let's see if his shooting is able to hold up when he gets to the playoffs. But he's shooting over 40% on catch-and-shoot threes in half court this year, even with that post-All-Star slide baked in. If he can do that, in addition to what he's been able to do is something like some of his finishing at the rim, getting more unassisted looks in those instances, it's not something you ever have to heavily feature. And I would argue certainly in a playoff setting, but they need it. They just need that extra outlet. And it's Jalen Suggs is going to be up and down as a shooter. And we know about his scatter shot availability. And then after that, it's sort of, well, who do you want it to be? Like, is it Jace Richardson? It's not Javon Carter. So I'm not even making fun of Jace Richardson. It's not. So there's a clear vacuum for we need a third best. Do I just say offensive player overall at this point with Franz Wagner out? And I think it needs to be Anthony Black, or the fact that I think it could be Anthony Black instead of Jalen Suggs is a testament to Anthony Black's growth.
Yeah. No, I would agree with everything you said. The only thing I'd add is it's kind of similar to the Scoot discussion. Like, where's the money coming from for him? Like long term, that like in terms of like what does the Orlando Magic look like 2 years from now? Because they're wildly expensive starting yesterday, and they gotta pay this. Like I was gonna really hot take it and say like I feel more comfortable with the $100 million deal for Black than I do for Scoot. I don't know if I go quite that far. Black is certainly like is it a leap this year? It's like what's like just like an inch short of a leap, and maybe it is a full leap. But we need a text with a firm definition of it. But the Magic have these massive deals for Franz and for Banchero, and like Suggs. I think Suggs' deal is fine, but it's not cheap. And then Bane's deal is enormous. Like, how are you paying Anthony Black? Who's going, or whose offer are you not matching if he gets to restricted free agency in a year plus? I think if he has, so since he's an X factor here, if he really does like replace a lot of what Wagner would have given them, and if he also is able to like give you some I'll step in for the Suggs role a little bit as like more of a playmaker, like you might need to just figure out how to make room for him on your books. I don't know what that looks like, but you can't just lose him.
Right. I do wonder if, and by the way, the other note I had here I wanted to make is he's shooting 12 of 31 on step back threes. That's like 39%. So that's, if he can hit those shots in the playoffs, that's a big deal. I don't even view it. I think if it comes down to them choosing, it feels as if they'll be deciding between Jalen Suggs or Anthony Black, if it comes down to it. They have a year before it's a problem, even if they extend Anthony Black. I do wonder if they'll be more inclined to wait because, one, of the financial situation that they're in, but two, they don't want to be sort of Dyson Danieled here with the Hawks, to where Dyson Daniels is still a fantastic defensive player, but it just
that's
offensively...
a shit contract. That's a bad contract now.
It doesn't look like a good contract right now. So I wonder if they'll wait for that reason, but also I think you could look at it and say, well, if he's playing like this offensively this year with the personnel that they still had around him. He's been more available than Jalen Suggs too. I don't know who I would pick long term. I'm probably picking Jalen Suggs. I love Jalen Suggs. Just that's the dude, if he's available, that I just he's going to shoot 31% from three. I will still play him 30. I mean, you can't play him 30 minutes a game. That's the problem, but you get what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
It's not going to have to be a decision this summer, but you're right. I didn't even think about the extension stuff. I was more so looking at this Magic team is the NBA's biggest disappointment. I'm trying. Who's the bigger disappointment than the Magic, just relative to what expectations were?
I mean, you might throw the Hawks in there because I remember I at least viewed those two teams preseason as like similar ceilings, but the Hawks like just kind of changed themselves pretty fundamentally. And there's like actually a lot to be encouraged about with Atlanta anyway. So, but yeah,
they also didn't just trade 4 first-round picks is the other thing.
Yes. And I would say Orlando is pretty comfortably the most disappointing team this year.
And so it's like, to me, I don't even know what I guess it's the East. So it feels short of Detroit. Feels like anything could happen. And Orlando might be one of the teams that's better built to face Detroit. Although we just went through them on a podcast with Mr. Toporek, and the Magic did not make our top 6 picks or something. I can't remember what happened there, but go check that podcast out. Anthony Black this has been a big season for him, but he's way more important to the Magic than I think they ever intended him to be on the offensive end.
Yeah. All right. It is my turn. This is the value is too good here on this pick, this late.
The value,
this is a high value pick. So in the notes, you asked if this fruit is hanging too low. And I said, no, it is properly hanging. And this is Jayson Tatum's Achilles specifically. So the name it's too big of a name. So that's strike one. And then also it's an injury question. So that's strike two. But like the Celtics might be the number 1 seed, and like it's possible they could be the top seed in the conference still. There's a lot of season left. And so just because they are in a spot that I think most people, but really I did not imagine was remotely possible. Like I thought this was a gap. I just like them and the Pacers, they're just gonna just pack it in.
I don't even want to look at how many. I know I hit their under. I don't even want to know how many wins. I can't remember how many wins I projected them for. But when we have to do our mulligans pot, I'm gonna look like a fool.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So because of that, and because of his capacity to come back, like nobody's saying it's happening yet. There's no, what did he say? There's nothing set in stone, or it's a lot like,
it's funny. I said this to Brian Toporek. It's funny that before he started, like we see these videos or he's like officially scrimmaging or practicing with the team. The whole chatter was, oh, he's definitely coming back. But now that there's like breadcrumbs being laid, it's we don't know if he's coming back.
Right.
It just seems it seems reversed.
That's its own X factor. It's just like, I mean, that's the ultimate X factor. He might play and he also might not at all. So that's a pretty big swing. And then within that is obviously like, what does he look like? He's not necessarily, it wouldn't be the same thing as integrating like prime James Harden or like Luka or just some like ridiculously high usage, like he defines your offense type of player. I think one of the things that makes Tatum so great is that if he's just defending and shooting off the ball and like making good passes, he's still a hyper valuable player. But like Jaylen Brown has become a high usage, like fringe MVP candidate that shoots a lot of tough jumpers, and somehow the offense. Well,
hold on. Did you know that the Celtics are statistically better without Jaylen Brown on the floor?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Have you heard that? Have you heard
that too? Heard that too. I still think Jaylen Brown has had a pretty good year. Is that a hot take? I think
that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. As someone who only looks at numbers.
But you just have to talk about like, what does the reintegration of Jayson Tatum look like? How much does he play? Who does he play with? Like, do you want to just have him play with not Jaylen Brown so that you don't like disrupt this thing that's working? And then you really win the non-Jaylen Brown minutes because they're so good already. You're a plus 25 instead of a plus 12 or whatever it is. Yeah, there's not a lot to say. It's just like, will the guy that was a top 5 player in the league come back at all? What will he do? And what does that do to a team that is like plausibly the number 1 seed in its conference? I have no idea about any of those. So he's a pretty good X factor.
He's a great one. And also what's interesting about him is if you put some stars coming back just all of a sudden, whether let's say it's March, well, it's going to be March because it's basically March now, middle of March, come back after not playing the whole season, there will be a disruption to the way they'll play. But Jayson Tatum has always had this scalability about him.
Yeah.
But it feels like rooted in how he started his career, where the Celtics were sort of good. And so it wasn't, he didn't have the ball in his hands all the time. What if you just asked him to be Anthony Simons for the rest of this season? It's, you don't need to worry about passing or really jump starting the offense. Just take and make shots. And then it's, sure, you're not going to be the primary. Like, that's still maybe Jaylen Brown's role. And I'm assuming, is there a long-term question behind that? Is Jaylen Brown going to want his own team? People have been wondering that forever. I just don't see it cropping up randomly. But for the rest of this season, it feels like Jayson Tatum might not want to be the marquee biller on the offensive end anyway. But it's huge because this team is already a top 2 or 3 team in the Eastern Conference and is going to get back someone who is at full strength, a top 5, worst top 7 NBA player.
Have we talked about at all, like, just do you think he should come back? Like, what have we, I don't know if we've had that conversation yet. Cause there's the Paul George example of like, let's dip a toe in, for next, so we're good for next year. It's not like a hard start next year versus the risk reward of it. Like, where do you land on just, if you're the Celtics and he could play, and there's like the doctors have said, there's no increased risk of injury. He's able, how we feel about his health.
Are they the NBA's doctors or Boston's doctors?
Are they the appointed ones? Yeah. So you have a panel of unbiased observers, and they're all medical professionals, and they say risk of injury today is the same as it'll be in mid-October when next season starts. He can play, and you're the Celtics. What do you do?
I guess is the only downside you're worried about him getting injured again, because that's going to be
You're the Celtics, that's going to. You tell me.
I don't have an MD, so everything, if what you're saying is what the messaging will be or the prognosis is, why not just come back? Because you're not yes, you're a lot better than expected. Who is let's say they win the East. Who's the Western Conference team they're going to be favored to beat?
Well, nobody that they might potentially see.
They're kind of operating with found money anyway. And so it's more important to me to look at the bigger picture. What you did at the trade deadline, you moved a helpful player in Anthony Simons in service of ducking the luxury tax. So bring Jayson Tatum back. Now, don't bring him back recklessly and ask him to play 37 minutes a game and every single game. But I don't see, if he's not at any more of a risk of re-injuring it, I'd rather him, because there's also there has to be a psychological component to this too, of just, I haven't played in an NBA game in forever. Get that out of the way now so that it's not looming over the start of next season. Yeah.
I love the idea of just come back and play a little bit so that opening night next year isn't a thing. Because if he says he's not, even if he's cleared and he says like, I'm not feeling it, like I'd rather wait, then okay, fine. You do exactly what he would prefer to do. That's okay. I would give him that kind of agency, and he deserves it. It's his career. But just like as a pressure release for starting next season, when presumably like you're going to be trying to win a championship from day one, the start of 26-27, taking the pressure of opening night and the beginning of that, like people won't be talking about, they'll talk about it some, but if you don't play this year, then like you got how many more months to just there's the anticipation grows, and like just if you can reduce all that, I think that alone is worth getting out there a little bit this year, just to like just shut all the noise off, for October. That's worth it to me.
My next pick, I want to stay on brand, so you know what's coming. Mr. Reed Sheppard. Rockets fans have got to be annoyed, because they've seen more of it than I have, of seeing Houston's crunch time offense, because it is a horror show. They're bottom 3 in turnover rate. I think they're 20th or whatever in offensive rating. I know the sample size is small, but they've been in quite a few clutch situations this year. And Reed Sheppard is not a mainstay in these minutes at a time when you don't have Fred VanVleet available. And I kind of understand that Ime Udoka might just trust his guys or believes that he wants players on the court who are going to be more competent defensively. Your offense is the problem, my guy. You are, as a team in the half court, you are 25th in attempt rate, so volume in the restricted area, and 29th in 3-point attempt rate from above the break. Put someone on the floor who addresses at least one of those things. And Reed Sheppard is going to address the above the break stuff. It's just someone who could create or get shots off outside of the corners. And he's not going to really impact. I mean, in an ideal world, he would impact your rim rate because there's more floor spacing. Guys can beeline to the basket, but that he hasn't had that impact this year. Now, there's a bunch of data to just support that this is a bad decision. When you sub him out of certain, if you're pulling Josh Okogie out of one of their most used lineups and sub Reed Sheppard in, or some variations of that, they're not all sort of spiffy. Like one of his best lineups is actually has Dorian Finney-Smith in it, which is, I don't know how much more of Dorian Finney-Smith we need to see, but they're shooting better on above the break threes and more often when he's in the game. And it's just another weapon because Alperen Şengün can't do that. Like just create from, just be that outside. Aside from Kevin Durant, all you have right now is Reed Sheppard. That's not Alperen Şengün's game. Thompson needs that downhill beeline to the basket. And having someone like Reed Sheppard in the game, he's going to do more to lift out defenders than a Josh Okogie, than Jabari Smith Jr. even when he's going through one of his hotter streaks. Like short of Kevin Durant, Reed Sheppard, I fully believe, just has more gravity than anyone else on the team. And I don't understand. He's played. Don't get this. It's not like they have him buried on the bench, but you just go through their offensive vitals. You look at what they're like has happened to a lot of their crunch time offense. You saw the Knicks game where they blew that 18-point lead. I don't want to sit here like Reed Sheppard could have been the panacea there. I don't know. There's going to still be growing. He's a sophomore and he has problems. I do think he's been way better defensively this year than he was last year. But what are we doing here? And I feel bad about this too. I can't remember whether I saw this, read this, heard this, or someone even texted it to me. But there's this thought. Maybe was it a DM? I don't even remember at this point. But there was a thought that the reason Houston didn't do anything at the trade deadline was because they didn't want to give Ime Udoka more of a reason to not play Reed Sheppard, like more than not enough as he was now. And if that's what you're actually worried about, I know there's always that tug of war between the front office and the coaching staff. We saw it in Denver last year. Like Ime Udoka shouldn't have his job. Then I'm sorry. It's not because I won't play Reed Sheppard, but if you're worried that he won't give this top 3 pick, who in theory, conceptually, addresses a lot of what you need, won't get him on the floor when it matters most, or is has him on this short leash. I understand the stakes are higher because you traded for age 37 Kevin Durant, but you're third in the Western Conference, and are you really in danger? You're 5 losses ahead of the Suns, so are you in danger of really falling into the play-in territory? I don't actually think Ime Udoka deserves to be fired, but if that's the reason you're afraid to make an upgrade is because you're worried a player whose minutes you need for both now. I would argue you need him now, but yeah, this is a high stakes game for later. Like that's just such a dumb concern. I understand from a coaching that he's trying to win games, but you've lost a lot of games in crunch time because of your offense. And Kevin Durant's he shouldn't be shouldering just look at the way defenses are going after him in some of those minutes. So I hope that Reed Sheppard actually, if Reed Sheppard's not an X factor, I actually think it's not going to be because of Reed Sheppard, but the Rockets' utilization of him.
Yeah, I think now I also can't remember where I read or heard this, but someone raised the point of with Udoka, he definitely wants to win, but in a certain way. You can look back at some of the Boston teams that great defensively, and then what was the knock on them? Their offense kind of got vanilla and bogged down and was solvable late in games. That was a real thing. That's a thing now. It seems because to me, I think if you put Sheppard on the floor consistently in crunch time lineups or lineups where you just need to score, he kind of needs to be a pretty featured part. I think you need to build the threat of him running around off the ball or getting screened for and shooting a lot to meaningfully change how defenses play you. And I don't think Udoka is comfortable with this player type, which is to say not a physical defensive rebounding, good positional size player in a prominent role. I guess maybe Van Vliet was an exception, but that's a veteran and that's a guy known for his toughness and all that other stuff. I think Sheppard just is in the unfortunate position of this is a coach that is not comfortable featuring him. And I think I think I would go a step farther and say I don't think he just needs to play to address what the Rockets have been doing poorly, which is scoring when, the chips are down. think he needs to play and like get stuff drawn up for him a lot. Like I think he needs to be like a real meaningful piece of the whole operation. But in general, yeah, I totally agree with you. Since we're here, Amen Thompson to me is a pretty like intriguing figure because he's representative of like the flip side of the Sheppard question, which is Thompson does a million things that I think Udoka likes, and a million things that fit with the Rockets' identity, which is athletic, physical, like, you know, can guard whatever, like crashes the boards, like all that stuff. Maybe the worst jump shooting wing or guard in the league. Certainly the one I think, I mean, maybe there's like a 2 or 3 way tie with his brother. And I'm trying to think who else. Even Castle gets treated a little differently because he's so dynamic attacking. I just don't like, what's the example of a Thompson type player that has like that a team has gotten away with using it across like multiple playoff series and not getting like exploited or schemed against or whatever? Like you go way like Tony Allen or like Andre Robertson, like years ago, is like they did a lot. I mean, Thompson's different because he has offensive value as like a ball handler, an attacker, a transition threat, just being athletic, whatever. But like, I think if the Rockets are real contenders, which I actually don't think they are, I don't know how that works with him on the floor at the end of games, or just in general against playoff defenses that are just going to like, you just go under every screen. You don't have to guard him. You like it just, I don't know what you do with that. And I don't, to me, he hasn't developed enough other stuff. Even in a season where like all of his counting stats are better. He hasn't developed enough other stuff to offset just the very basic, this guy can't shoot. And we don't like, so he doesn't have to be guarded, honestly. Like, I don't know what you do with that as the Rockets.
Yeah. And look, just to back up your point, 269 players have attempted at least 50 unguarded threes. Dyson Daniels is the only player shooting a lower clip.
I forgot about him. Okay. That was the other one. Yeah. More air balls than makes. Is that stat still accurate? Did you see that the other day?
I did not see that, but it honestly wouldn't shock me.
No, it's more air. It was like 12 to 11 air balls versus made threes or something like that. Sorry.
And with Thompson, the other problem is like, so just to use Steph Castle as the analog, I know they're two different players, but Thompson doesn't even have the track record from mid-range. I think he's at like 47% on his floaters or whatever, but he's sub 40% from mid-range in general this year. He's not shooting as well from the free throw line as a Steph Castle. So what, like neither of these players are being taken off the floor in the playoff series, but I almost feel like Thompson has, when you look at the way that the Rockets are built versus the way that the Spurs are built, if playoff defenses solve one of them, it's a way bigger problem for Houston than it is going to be for San Antonio.
And the solving is just easier because we haven't mentioned him, but Şengün's inability to space is another factor, and you cannot take him off. I mean, they have for stretch, like his spacing issues and his need to be on the ball to have value paired with Thompson's is really the reason we're talking about Sheppard as a fix, like, because the problem is so pronounced. Whereas with the Spurs, it's very, very different because of the surrounding person. Like if the Rockets had a Champagnie or a Vassell or even a Castle instead of Thompson, I don't think the problem is as pronounced, right?
No, I probably not. Probably not. And you know what else isn't as pronounced? The offensive problems if you play Reed Sheppard more in crunch time. Because you want to know why? He only turns the ball over in crunch time on 3.4% of his possessions, which is just, he doesn't have a ton of crunch time possessions, but I'm just bothered by Ime Udoka's use or complete ignorance of future megastar Reed Sheppard. Who's your official pick next?
Oh, okay. So Thompson doesn't count for me. All right. Well, let's you stayed on brand. I'll stay on brand. It's Jalen Williams, and it's specifically Jalen Williams' wrist for the Oklahoma City Thunder. The shot has not, I mean, even last year, the 3-point shot wasn't there. This year it's down to 31%. His assist rate is up. The OKC offense is like, I think it's like a 113 when he's on without Shea, which is okay. And I think it's actually better than the 111 from last year, but it's still not like a championship caliber thing. And the sample's small, so you can't trust it. Plus the hamstring stuff now. It's easy to cite the X factor for the Thunder as just like collective health because everybody has been hurt or is hurt right now. But the specific issue, and this is what I was alluding to when at the outset I said, like, there's going to be some familiar X factors, and the non-SGA minutes with J-Dub leading the offense definitely is one. Counter, AJ Mitchell, like, he's a new wrinkle that wasn't available last year. It's a lot to ask that AJ Mitchell is like in games with the stakes that the Thunder are going to play. Like, you're going to have him as like the primary initiator if Williams is not capable of doing it. I mean, maybe you'll have to, but that's a big ask for a guy that has basically been come out of nowhere this year to be this good. So because we had to talk Thunder, I don't know where else to go other than that. Is there something else that you would point to for OKC as an X factor?
I'm going to go with, I had trouble narrowing it down. And so I kind of had a feeling that you were going to go with Jalen Williams, but they could be a team of X factors because of the injuries. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Cason Wallace, and he kind of swayed me over the past. It's been coming out of the All-Star break base. I think his past 3 games, he's like running more of the offense because he has to. And he's done. Well, you look like you want to say something.
I was going to say, how do you feel about that?
I don't love it, but at the same time, like, he's had some higher scoring performances. He's shooting 8 of 13 on self-created jumpers during this stretch. Like, that's a big deal. And so I'm looking at it from a zoomed out perspective of if they get relatively healthy. So if you have AJ Mitchell and or Jalen Williams available, what does this mean if you can put more responsibility in his hands, specifically with regards to the non-Shea minutes? But if he can continue to tick up from 3-point land, like, that's what this is what we talk about the Thunder's, quote unquote, weakness is that it feels like their offense bogs down. If Cason Wallace is the outlet that we know he can be, but maybe even a version of the outlet that, not even an outlet, but is he a quasi-initiator at this point? Can he be? Can you buy more minutes without J-Dub and Shea on the court together because you have Cason Wallace and an AJ Mitchell? There's so many different things they could do if he is this player on offense when they have at least one of Shea or J-Dub available. At the same time, the reason I ended up selecting him as well, I mean, you could say the same thing about Isaiah Hartenstein's bigger picture too. Mm-hmm. He's another guy who's extension eligible.
Yep.
Who are they going to pay? They have AJ Mitchell on the books. He's cheap. Alex Caruso's not cheap. Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe are relatively cheap, and people keep saying they'll be collateral damage, but do you want to get off of those contracts when you're going to continue to get more expensive? I don't know when they traded for Jared McCain, who could be another potential X factor if we're worried about their offense bogging down. Cason Wallace, just because of the extension eligibility, I find so fascinating here, because if he's going to play a more expanded offensive role because he has to, and the individual numbers are there, or even the Thunder start to come out of the SGA list minutes rut, how much more expensive could he get? Because we already know he's an all NBA quality defender. If you now throw in this doesn't need to be your 5th option on the offensive end, he can be something more. That's only going to get pricier.
Yeah, he's the reason I gave you the look when you were talking about him running more of the offense is just like, I know there's some encouraging. I mean, he's got like a handful of 20-point games recently. He had a 10 assist game in there. The role has changed. I'm still not sold on him as like, there's this hidden reservoir of talent that hasn't been able, like, they haven't tapped into it because they're so good and they just need him to do a couple things. I think maybe there's some of that, but I think it's mostly because he is pretty limited still. But like, you could also say, well, the reason he's limited is because he never gets to explore. Like, if he were on a bad team for this first 3 years of his career, who knows what his like shot creation would look like now. He just hasn't gotten a chance. So it's a little like chicken or egg thing, I think, when it comes to him being a limited player. I'm not sure, but I'm not sold on that. I'm curious, as you were talking, you made me think, like, because you make a good case if it's like, all right, Shea's off, but we think Wallace is developing as a shot creator. AJ Mitchell has been good at that. Jalen Williams can be like passable to good at that. Like, in a playoff setting, do you think it's enough if there's like, all right, well, these three guys are okay and they can share the load versus we need someone, a singular someone that can get us a good shot, like reliably. You know what I mean? It's like if you got 3 C pluses, is that the same as a B? As having,
No.
or something like that? Or do you need the guy?
I think you need the guy.
It's just, I just made me think of that because like it does have some appeal to be like, well, I mean, we love having shot creators across several positions. That's good. But it's hard to get in a playoff series. It's like somebody's got to fucking create a shot. Like
I'm also just looking at it through the lens of they have to have J-Dub at some point, right? And before he re-aggravates his injury, that game, what was it? That was that game against the Suns where he just went absolutely off and looked like J-Dub. Yeah. And so that's what sucks. So I'm caking in J-Dub is going to be fine at some point this season. Maybe that's being a little over ambitious and if this team has been so banged up. But even if Cason Wallace is just this dude hits more threes, can do a little bit more of the ball handling.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, you're right to frame it that way. I think it just makes the minutes where it's just, if J-Dub is injured or if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is catching the breather, it just makes those minutes so much easier because Cason Wallace can do things defensively that even AJ Mitchell isn't going to do. And so you could say maybe Alex Caruso could, but he's never going to do the things. He can't play as much and he's never going to do the things offensively that maybe Cason Wallace could do.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think it's still me because we just piggyback off you with Cason Wallace.
Doubled the thunder there.
Here we go. Jalen Green.
Ooh,
I went back and forth here. I thought about Oso. I think the Suns are probably just a team of X Factors is what it is. Rasheer Fleming is playing. Should I have just picked him? But I thought about Oso Ighodaro was the one I think I came closest to picking. Gave consideration to Grayson Allen. I do believe to pick anyone other than Jalen Green would just be overthinking it because Devin Booker as of right now is injured. Dylan Brooks, the broken hand, when is he going to come back? Will he be ready in time for the play-in? And they were so reliant on Dylan Brooks offensively, not just defensively. And so you look at Jalen Green, the sample size is so small. It's not pretty when you look at the shooting percentages. And the fact that he is shooting a higher percentage in the half court on step back threes or pull up threes than he is at the rim, definitely problematic. But I think when you watch him, there's definitely, and I think some of this is a byproduct of the way that Phoenix's roster is who's available right now. He's on the ball too much. Your touch time should not be over 40% of his touches come when he's holding the ball for 6 seconds or more. Just for comparison's sake, Devin Booker, who is the engine of the offense and is so good at getting off the ball, only 30% of his possessions are in there. And so
did he dribble out the shot clock at the end of a game a couple times or something? That's crazy. Sorry. I did not know that.
It is small sample too. So we're talking
yeah, that's what I mean.
But when you also watch him though, he still settles for the tough shots where he wants to be more of an escapist than get by guys, it feels like. But he's had moments where he's getting by guys. There have been some, all right, he makes a tough baseline jumper. Or, oh, look at that finish at the rim. I think the bigger deal for me has actually been the moments, and the shots are not going in right now. He's shooting a higher percentage on self-created threes than catch and shoot threes, which might be the most Jalen Green stat of all time, quite frankly. Feels like he is looking to soak up the right space when he doesn't have the ball to where he's going to be that second pass away. Unless it's Devin Booker who has the ball, he'll throw a cross-court shenanigan and it'll work out because I think Devin Booker is one of the most underrated passers in the game. That all being said, him, whether it's lifting out or drifting to above the break, I think there's going to be something there when they're at full strength. Oh, Jalen Green, could he be more complimentary than we've seen in the past? And that was one of the big knocks with him in Houston is wasn't efficient enough as the focal point, wasn't efficient enough or impactful enough when he's playing off the ball. He's defending better, again, based on what I've seen in a small sample size in Phoenix than he was at the end of his time in Houston. At the same time, do you know why he's actually an X factor? Because they might need him to do the stuff that we don't want him to do.
Yep.
You need that tough shot maker, especially if you don't have Dylan Brooks on the court shooting 60% on turnaround jumpers. He's never going to be a facilitator. You probably trust Grayson Allen in that role more so than Jalen Green at this point. But their offense, the way this team plays defensively, it's infectious. They're one of those teams where if you're good, they just play. They play with energy. They're lively, and it's every night. You're going to feel them. They could lose by like 20, and but you still remember that game you played against the Suns, and they just need that pure, unadulterated offensive force, and they needed that before Dillon Brooks was injured, to be clear. And I felt like going with Colin Gillespie wasn't in the spirit of the exercise because of how important he's been all year. And Jalen Green is just this huge piece they're trying to integrate. So I don't want to see him on the ball as much as he probably needs to be on the ball, but there's no getting when Devin Booker's healthy. Sure, there are ways to circumvent that a little bit, but I have just belief, and this might be small sample belief. It's the small sample theater, or although we're almost in March, so this is Jalen Green's time. This is time for us to feel good about Jalen Green.
You should have led with that. We are right smack where Jalen Green thrives.
But to be fair, he's not thriving. When you watch him, and like the shots just aren't going in, but the aesthetics of it, I'm okay with it, except for the fact that he's getting the rim less than ever, and it honestly feels like a choice, Grant, and it bugs the shit out of me when you watch him. Just the bailouts or the I want to step back, or like I said, he wants to be more of an escapist than someone who just attacks the basket.
I just think the hamstring stuff has just changed him this year. Like it's been recurring. It's been impossible to get over. I kind of just view this season as like a lost year for him because he missed so much time with just the type of injury that does make you bail out and does make you like.
But he's always had that in him. That you know what I mean?
That's the thing. You're right. I think the most interesting part about it is like the Pistons, the Suns need him to be like, they need him even if he's going to be the worst version of himself, like the player that we like don't particularly care for offensively, like kind of the empty calories guy. Like that would be enough. And if he can't do that even, then it is truly a lost year. All right, I got. I want?
Yeah, he's just for context though. In the half court, he is shooting 45.2% from mid range, 45.5% in the restricted area.
Yeah,
he is shooting on pull up threes 40%, which is almost what he's shooting in the restricted. So I was a little bit off there. That's like, again, the finishing will get better. I just don't, maybe to your point, the hamstring injuries in his head, or it's materially impacted the way he looks. I will say he doesn't look bad on the ball. It's not anything thermonuclear when you're looking at his speed, but he can still escape and get by some guys. There just needs to be more of he needs to be more deliberate about it, or maybe this is just always going to be like ingrained into him. That's just who he is.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like we got any good information on him this year, and maybe that'll change, or down the stretch. But again, when Jalen Green blows up down the stretch, it's like, okay, cool. That's just the normal thing. Doesn't mean anything. I'm going to snipe you because I know you just can't wait to talk about your New York Knicks. And I'm going to choose Mitchell Robinson as an X factor. I remember at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of discussion about like who should start, who should play with whom, and all this stuff. And they've just kind of managed his minutes to where he doesn't start. They're trying to preserve him, I guess, or they're just not comfortable with him in certain lineups. So that the fact of like, maybe we're holding out because we know we're going to need him is one thing. The other issue is just like, as we were talking off air, like as I'm looking at like, if it goes wrong for each team, like what's the reason going to be? And to me, it's Cat just can't be part of a functional pick and roll defense, especially if Brunson is involved. And so Mitchell Robinson as a rim protector, as a better defender, as a rebounder is just better. So like, is that all going to work out? Or are we going to get to the postseason and it turns out like he can't hold up and play enough to really matter, or it actually doesn't make sense to play him as much as maybe it seems like he should? I don't really know where else to go on the Knicks either, to be honest, unless you'd really like to discuss,
Landry Shamet,
Mo Diawara. Yeah, I don't know. Robinson is just such a swing figure for them. It kind of seems like that's the case every postseason, but it's got to be him.
You could make the case that he is their second best shot creator because of his offensive rebounding.
I think that's a great case. I mean, that's a very strong.
He's also an X factor too, because there's been pockets of time or pockets within games where he looks like the dominant defender again, moving on the perimeter, snuffing out or deterring shots at the basket, but he's been just off And I don't know if he has not been great by his own standards defensively this year, but you're absolutely right. I think they're going to we haven't seen a ton of the dual big lineup. The minutes they've played dual big against the Pistons this season when they were able to, then did not go well. It was like 9 minutes and they were -10 during that stretch, but he is so huge to what they're trying, because I don't think you can't just hope to have a good enough defense for the postseason because you have OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and now Jose Alvarado or Deuce McBride on the court. I think that he could be a potential insulator for Karl-Anthony Towns in certain matchups, or you just need to dominate defensively in the minutes that Cat isn't on the floor. There's a more intuitive connection with him and Jalen Brunson for sure than Karl-Anthony Towns too, which is another element that should probably get talked about. He's definitely an X factor. And I think they're probably making the right move, managing his minutes, being on the maintenance program, not playing him back-to-backs. We're just not going to know, though, because the whole thing, you can conserve him for the postseason, but are you all of a sudden going to play him more minutes in the postseason? Because this is not someone who's played 25-plus minutes per game often this year.
Sorry, you just made me think of a question I have to ask you because I don't know your thoughts on it. So, offensive end of the floor. Is there a case the Knicks are better, like you said, because of his offensive rebounding with Robinson in the game and Cat out at center, all else being equal? So they're just Cat is still the better offensive weapon.
I think by virtue of his,
they're better.
It's not even close.
Robinson, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not even going to be close. Even if there's numbers that say, because Karl-Anthony Towns will do the defensive rebounding, he's been a part of some lineups without Jalen Brunson. The root of, and you wrote about this, the root of most of the Knicks' defensive issues is Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson playing together. Yeah. And the other part of that is you've built a team around them where the people are mad at Mikal Bridges because he doesn't do the thing that he's never really been supposed to do when it comes to, you don't want him at the point of attack all the time. And he's been, I think if you just took away, include the extension, but if you just took away the cost it took to acquire him, I don't think people would view Mikal Bridges as just a disappointment. I think he would met or exceeded expectations.
He would only be beloved if not for those the cost and then the second cost. I think that's right.
But I think if you were going to have Towns and Brunson, which they clearly didn't know, maybe they had an inkling of, but if you knew you were going to have Brunson and Towns as the basis of your team, you need another OG Anunoby. You don't need a Mikal Bridges, or at least you need to be bigger on the perimeter than having Deuce McBride, Landry Shamet, Jose Alvarado, all really good. Landry Shamet's been pretty good defensively this year, but it's just, you need someone bigger than that. And Mikal Bridges is bigger, but he's not going to play the physical brand of defense that you get from an OG Anunoby. And so Mitchell Robinson is the X factor for that reason, because he can erase a lot of the problems that are going to be in front of you. But the question becomes, how much is he, like, is it just a on the court with Jalen Brunson thing, or are we going to see more of the dual big lineups as it, like, once we get to the postseason? And those have not been, it was sort of this mystery box for the Knicks last year, and now we're just sort of like, he had started some games earlier in the year. It's just the minutes we've seen, they haven't been spectacular. And so I don't know what you do in that. Like, can you just bust that, or can it become more of a staple? Is it only a staple against certain teams? Who are those teams? Those are, because look, the way that Towns has been shooting, been a little bit better lately, but like, he's having the least efficient season of his career. And so, yeah, he'll still have that gravity, but if he's not making threes and then you have Mitchell Robinson on the court, like, the floor is just shrunk because that happens. And you also have to game it now. Can you have him on the court with Mo Diawara or Jeremy Sohan? I will say, I will be on this podcast ranting and raving if Jeremy Sohan is getting any postseason minutes over Mo Diawara.
Oh, I didn't know your opinion on him. I was going to ask you, like, how's the experience been for you?
He's fine as a flyer, and I get why you try him out now just to kind of understand what you have, but there's just no. There's
no there.
There's no there, at least relative to this team that wants to play Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart together and still have really good spacing. So, but yeah, I think that's the right pick. The only other player I think you could go with is Landry Shamet. And that's almost an indictment of the Knicks that Landry Shamet has become this important to them.
He's a classic. That guy's way too important guy. That should be a whole other thing.
Everyone wants to see the deuce plus starters.
It,
Give me Landry plus starters now.
It's terrifying that this player is too important. Is this important? I feel like there's at least a half dozen guys we could hit that with that.
Could that be like how many of the X factors that we named though fit under that? Or did we just rebrand X factors?
I think maybe we just rebranded X factor. Yeah, that's actually not that innovative. Disregard.
I'm going to go to, this is probably an obvious one, but Darius Garland for the Clippers. And it's, can he get healthy? He's apparently scrimmaging now, which is a good sign. But I think why he's also an X factor is people have just sort of written off the Clippers as, well, they don't care about this year anymore. Look at the trades they just made with Zubats and Harden. And yeah, sure. The defense has been borderline elite since those trades. And the thing they need the most on offense, if Kawhi Leonard is going to be there, is like someone who can just another playmaker in the half court and just someone to get up threes. They're 29th in 3-point attempt rate since the trade deadline, 23rd in accuracy. You're not getting that from Chris Dunn. You also don't want to see Derek Jones Jr. have to get up runners in crunch time like he was the other night. Those guys would all be X factors, by the way. You want to pick Kobe Sanders, Jordan Miller, those would all be accurate X factors, maybe under different circumstances. But the unknown of Darius Garland, plus the fact that I kind of think that the Clippers could still be pretty fucking good if you maybe acquired a fringe All-NBA. I get James Harden is better, having the better season, but you might have just acquired a fringe All-NBA player. So how much worse are you really going to be, again, if Kawhi Leonard is able to be on the floor? I don't know what type of noise they could make. They are not going to get out of play-in territory. They're 10th right now. They're 7 losses behind 6th. But, I mean, short of maybe the Thunder and perhaps the Spurs, what team wants to face Kawhi and a healthy Darius Garland in the playoffs? Maybe you want to face the Clippers because you're going to bet against one or both of those guys not being healthy. Right. But if Darius Garland comes back, I don't think the Clippers, no, I don't think they'll be as frisky as if they still had Zubats. I know, hot take, that one of their 3 most important players was important to them. But this team's season is not just over. If Darius Garland can it's not just over. He does everything that we've watched so far. He kind of fills every hole that they still have.
Is he the leader now among players where we like to say the pendulum swung too far? At least for him towards the negative, because all the things he has working against him, like the recent discourse that just won't go, maybe well-founded, of just like small guards are dead, man. Can't have small guards in the NBA anymore. It's the most overvalued position. Like, look at if you want to list the worst contracts in the league, a lot of them are small guards. There's that. There's the injuries. There's you're trading this guy without picks for James Harden. Like, that's how out the Cavs are on him. The contract's pretty big. Is having said all that, we're not that far removed from it probably wasn't last year. It's probably the year before where it was actually Darius Garland is having a better season than Donovan Mitchell, and Donovan Mitchell's having a great season. Do you remember that? I know we discussed that. It could have been 2 years ago.
I think it might have been last year at one point, and then by the end of it, Donovan Mitchell had separated himself. But we both had, I don't believe he ultimately made it, but we both had Darius Garland, on our All-NBA ballots.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, there was, and it wasn't like a 2-week thing. It was
that
was a decent stretch where, Darius Garland is at least it's a conversation right now about who's had the better year, with Donovan Mitchell, who's just today is a top 10 player probably. And maybe ended up
Donovan Mitchell's probably going to be top 5 on the MVP ballot this year, right?
Yeah, on the default MVP ballot that we're going to have this year. That's super fun. We should discuss that. Anyway, to answer my own question, the pendulum has swung a little too far towards Darius Garland is not good anymore. I think that's a good pick. However, there are real questions. That's why he's an X factor. Maybe toe injuries are the new torn ACL, where it's just death sentence, man. You're never going to be the same.
We all thought it was calf strains were going to be the next unraveling of the NBA, but it's the fucking toes.
It's the toe injuries. All right, let's see. We're running out of really obvious ones here. So I'm going to go for my next pick with, how suspenseful should we make it? Okay, this will be a quick one.
The suspense is actually killing me.
Let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis.
Who's that?
And if you're
Quentin Post backup, I get it.
Yeah, Quentin Post backup. He sometimes doesn't travel with the team on road trips already because what's the point? He's not going to play. Look, If Porzingis can be healthy, I don't know. Yeah, I can't say like full stop, just like healthy enough. We've discussed like he is the absolute ideal center to put next to Draymond Green. And that's if you think Draymond Green is still someone that you need to like make decisions around. And for the moment, he sort of is because he's clearly not going anywhere. He also might be $30 million of dead money. And then what do you pay him in the off season? Like how you certainly don't have enough information based on what he's done this year with the team because he's barely played and hasn't looked good when he did. So I think if you say that the Warriors traded for him because they needed to get Jonathan Kuminga off the team and their only requirement was no money that goes beyond this season, like that's a possibility. I think there was more to it than that. I'm convinced they thought, and maybe still think, we can get this Potts thing figured out. We don't need him to be a superstar. We just need him to give us, you can rest on back-to-backs, give us 25 minutes of what you do 55 times a year, and then enough of that in the playoffs, and you really matter. He could also just produce precisely zero. And so I guess it has to be more of a big picture thing. Just like, is he the key to getting Curry at all one more run next year if they bring him back? Or was it just like no one ever remembers he was on the team and he doesn't come back and Kuminga's gone and that's just like we just dust our hands off?
I think even, let's say 20 minutes a game in the play-in or the playoffs of the Kristaps Porzingis that you saw with Boston, just because he was so up and down this year with Atlanta, why would you want to ever face the Warriors in that instance? That because of just the stuff that Kristaps Porzingis can do, yes, the floor spacing, the rim protection, for sure, you mentioned, doesn't occupy the same space as Draymond Green, but you could also in lineups where if like he's not the passer that Steve Kerr probably prefers bigs to be, but like you can put him like in the mid post. You could put him like just on the, and not run the offense, but he could generate turnaround, hit those turnaround jumpers, or just like shoot over guys. That's the version we saw of him. It was in Washington. It was in Boston. I mean, like we saw it at moments in Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta would have wanted to have traded him for Kuminga if Kristaps Porzingis was healthy. I don't think is that a move that they make? Probably not.
No, I don't. Because Kuminga doesn't. It doesn't make sense on that team just because of who's already there and what they. If he plays the Wizards every night, he's going to continue to be great.
He's going to get minutes over Zachary Ricochet because that makes a ton of sense,
buddy. No, I think the other thing you mentioned, the post up stuff, like. There was that hot minute where he was like statistically the best post up big in the league because he could just turn around and get fouled every time. But like from the Warriors perspective, literally anybody that has a thing that they can do to generate a point or an attempt at free throws that's not Steph Curry is good. Like Jimmy Butler's principal ability, like as the non-Steph offensive leader, was go get fouled. If they have another guy, like if all Porzingis does is get fouled twice in the couple minutes he plays without Steph, that's a value add, like in addition to all the spacing and whatever. But I don't know. These are impossible things to know, but like his health future is just like, who's got a cloudier one that doesn't have like a major injury right now, like he's just, you can't possibly know how much he's going to play going forward. It's unknowable.
Would you give him non-taxpayer mid-level money this offseason as of right now if that got him back?
What's that, like 15, at like 15
a year, basically?
Yeah, I think I would, and I think that's worth the risk. But if you go up to like 25 or something, which would be a discount from what he's making AAV right now, I think that's just there is a massive risk that you are setting that money on fire. Like that's a real thing.
Maybe you do it as if it's a 1-year deal because you want, again, to sort of roll over the Kuminga salary slot would be, but yeah.
That would be different. Multi-year, though, you can't, I could never get up into the 20s, I don't think.
Well, speaking of Jonathan Kuminga, he's my X factor. You want to know why, Grant? I don't think it's a coincidence that Jonathan Kuminga gets traded to the Atlanta Hawks, then they announce a Magic City tribute night. Replete with lemon pepper wings. I don't care about what's happening on the court. This team is aggressively middling, and whatever he does, I don't really think is going to have an impact. And if anything, I think you're just going to have less information on Zachary Ricochet or maybe someone who's more important to your long term. But that's why Jonathan Kuminga is an X factor. More of an X factor for on-court purposes for me. Ooh, I have so many different directions I want to go in right now. All right, let's go here. Charles Lee, head coach of the Charlotte Hornets. The only head coach we've picked so far, right?
Yeah.
The Hornets are, just because I can't identify a singular player that's responsible for it, the Hornets are 6th in points allowed per possession since Thanksgiving. That is a huge sample size. And there's some opponent luck caked in there, but they're also, and I've now mentioned it a bunch of times in this podcast, your offense is good, so your defense gets set. They're a great defensive rebounding team. Mike Shearer of Basketball Poetry the other day made a great point about how they're just not allowing corner threes either. Another thing that they're doing is they just have a bunch of guys that are holding their own one-on-one, not getting torched on screen. Brandon Miller has led the charge, but you have Sion James sprinkled in there. I think Con Knippel's done really good with his size in a lot of the one-on-one situations. Moussa Diabate, it's not just his ability to be around the basket, handle some of the bigs when he switched out onto the perimeter. There's just a lot of moving parts. Even Miles Bridges has had his defensive moments. We all know Josh Green has had some really good defensive moments as well. This Hornets team on paper, I'm sorry, there is no way that for more than half of the season, they should be a top 7 defensive team.
No.
There, you look at the personnel, there's absolutely none. And like, LaMelo Ball still kind of flitters around out there a bunch, but even he doesn't seem as like as rigid. He's still going to be targeted, but like he's just going to be a little bit more active. So I'm just going to give the credit to Charles Lee. And if he's able to keep this up, do the Hornets just get into the playoffs through the play-in at this rate? And you're looking at everyone's singing their praises right now, which is just a wild thing to say because they're 10th in the Eastern Conference, but they've been just a really, really good team since Thanksgiving. We're talking grit. We're going on, what is that, 3 months now? That's insane. And so if they're able to get there, I wouldn't put it past them to get into the 8th spot. At the way the Magic have played this year, I know they've been better lately, but I wouldn't put it past them to get in the 7th spot. They're not getting to 6. That would be, although there's some injuries in Philly too. I wouldn't rule anything out in these.
We'd have to do emergency pod if they. I was thinking we need to do an emergency pod when they get to over 500, which is not that far off.
So yeah, like they might finish the season over 500, which is something stupid to say, but when you're talking about a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 7 years or whatever it is, they haven't won a playoff series in 22 years or whatever it's been. It's a big deal. And I think that even last year, you kind of saw flashes of, they're going to be able to punch above their weight defensively. And now it's just like Charles Lee has kind of entrenched that in stone. And again, they don't need to be elite. And by the way, they haven't had like the best schedule, but they haven't been the worst. When they go up against top 10 offenses, they're still basically fine during this stretch. So the Hornets, their offense is scary, but their defense is competent. And I think a lot of credit has to just go to that coaching staff. The players, of course, Brandon Miller's been, if this was a full season's worth of Brandon Miller, you might have had some Brandon Miller all defense talk.
That's interesting. Yeah, because the performance has gone on long enough that you can't dismiss it. And yet, as we're talking about it, I'm still just like, how is this happening with the personnel? Like you got at least one rookie on the floor most of the time, sometimes more than that. LaMelo, like sometimes your center is a rookie. Sometimes it's an undersized guy who's like an energy player. I just like Miles Bridges doesn't strike me as much of a, like, there's just like, how is it work? Yeah. I like the crediting the coaching staff because the personnel just, you said it, punching above its weight. Let's go to the similarly small market Los Angeles Lakers. And so the player is Jake LaRavia, but it's really just like the spot in the lineup because it could be him. If you're looking to like, how do we get the best version of the Lakers? It's like Marcus Smart's gotten some starts fairly for a while. You've had Rui Hachimura in there for a good chunk of the early part of the season. LaRavia seems like the only guy that is going to give you something on both ends at that position. And I get, so far that's borne out mostly offensively. The share of time that he has spent. Here's one for you. How many possessions has LaRavia played with LeBron, Reeves, and Luka this year?
Ooh. LeBron, Reeves, and Luka.
Non-garbage.
I'm going to say 10.
Oh, well, if you include DeAndre Ayton, it is exactly 10. Overall, it's only 29. So, like, essentially none. The offense, stupid good. The defense, a little below average. I think we need to see more. And that's not all on LaRavia or like lineup shuffling. It's just those three guys have all, missed time.
In out of lineup, yeah.
That's part of it.
Why wouldn't that? Can I ask you, why wouldn't that be your default as the Lakers? Are you worried just about the shooting? Because I don't. Marcus Smart is not.
No, I think the issue. I think the issue is LaRavia is like viewed as in the middle, which is to say, like, Hachimura's 3-point shooting is just like, it's real. It's that's it, you'd like more volume, but like that's why he plays, is he's gonna make open threes, good size. Like him and LaRavia seem interchangeable, and LaRavia is just a better defender. But like we got to have shooting. I don't know why you'd say that, because this offense should be fine just as long as Luka's out there with warm bodies. So it's Rui, and it's like, well, we got to have somebody that's gonna really guard. And Marcus Smart's reputation is that he's that guy. Like it's mostly foul grifting and flopping and stuff. It's like, it's not 2021 when he's like, is that the year he won it? Or I think 21 or 22. Anyway, so you have like, when we need these extreme solutions, there's two other players that get picked, and LaRavia is the one that kind of does both, at least like theoretically not quite as well as the two guys on the extreme ends of the offense and defense help scale. So maybe that's why, but I would say that he probably should be the choice in that lineup spot, if only because I just would prefer the balance. I would prefer someone that like is useful at least to some degree on both ends, as opposed to like, all right, well, there's sacrifices you make when Smart is the guy, and there's sacrifices you make when it's Rui. If anything, I'd lean Smart of the two extremes, just because you got to have somebody that's going to muck it up and guard. And so I guess it's him, and that's probably why he's played a fair amount lately. So yeah, I don't know. But if LaRavia can be, as good as Hachimura as a shooter for a decent stretch, then he's clearly the guy. And if he can guard with that impact, then he's clearly the guy.
I would say if he's going to be as good of a shooter as Rui Hachimura, that he should probably be.
Maybe I should say if his offensive impact can be that of Hachimura's, like, because he's just not going to be like a mid-40s 3-point shooter.
I think that's, if you had to pick a player on the Lakers, that's because you could say one of the other centers that's not Ayton, but that just rings hollow. And look, I would honestly, is it Crunk Juice? Is that the X Factor? Is it the Crunk Juice?
The X Factor is like which one of him is going to be there that night. Sure.
Man, I have a few I want to get. All right, let's go here. Fuck it. So I'm going with Kasparas Jakucionis. I guess this is a deep cut. I was worried, and his minutes have been a little bit more up and down when you're going to have Tyler here. Oh, I'm picking Kasparas Jakucionis for anyone who wants to know who I'm picking of the Miami Heat. He's still been playing with Norman Powell and Tyler Hero available, which is good. Not as much as when you're going to deal with absences of one of those, most notably Hero. I have a take, and I think that it's maybe because am I forgetting someone who's run through Miami. I think Kasparas Jakucionis is the best passer the Miami Heat have had since LeBron James.
Man, I wish I had researched this, because my first reaction is like, that can't be right. but you might be right. Make your case.
The stuff that and it's not all the time, because they do have him playing off the ball. And by the way, that's part of the intrigue, is that why I'm selecting him is this offense just needs a jolt of adrenaline into it. After kind of the preseason hype and some nice starts earlier in the season, they're once again below average on the offensive end. The half court has not been anything special. It's been worse if you look at it since January 1st. Throw Jakucionis in there, and he's just like this variable defenses can't account for, even though the shooting's been better from beyond the arc, which has allowed him to play off the ball more, and he will move off the ball. He's not able to get separation like he wants to or is used to at this level, and he's really struggled inside the arc. It has been abysmal on most nights. But the passing that he just throws, whether he's on the move or looking ahead in transition, and it's just kind of doing these deep fakes to defenses where he's looking in another direction, then turning to another player, finding guys while they're on the move. Like, the IQ And then kind of the gall is over because some of the passes he just shouldn't be trying. And there was a pass he threw to he knows where Khalil Ware is at all times, is what it really seems like. But I think they were playing, was it the Nuggets? And like the Nuggets, or was it I don't know. They like scram switched out of going to get onto Khalil Ware and put a bigger body on Khalil Ware. Maybe it was the Timberwolves game. I don't remember which game it was, but they scram switched that they get a bigger body on Khalil Ware. And just in that like millisecond, Jakucionis in traffic, like on the move, threads the needle right to Khalil Ware for a shot that would not have been open just a nanosecond later than that. I don't know what the Heat are this season, but as a team that is battling for positioning in the Eastern Conference, they're not, I mean, they could still get Philadelphia as 26 losses, the Heat are at 29 as we're recording this, so it's not outside the realm of possibility you could get into the top 6. I think you need to get, he's a jolt of adrenaline, and it's not always going to end well, but even the turnovers have been more under control than it felt like they were in Summer League, and that probably comes with just having more reps next to guys. He's already super helpful to the offense. It's better with him statistically when they're on the floor. And I think the thing that passes the eye test more than anything is they get out in transition and are so much more efficient in transition with him on the floor. And I just like Tyler Hero can even play off him. We see moments of that. He's good at finding guys who are just trailing for the 3-pointer as well. I would say Cass should have to average 25 plus minutes a game the rest of the way. And that's why, and I think Miami's offense would be better off for it. Maybe I'm stupid pilled though. Who knows?
No. I mean, he's got a couple 20 plus minutes in the last couple of weeks. You've sold me. I do think the value of like a daring passer is a real thing, because it's like the Jokic effect is an unfair example, but it's like, guys move around in very different ways when they think like, well, if this window opens a crack, I'm getting the ball. And I think if Jakucionis is like anything like that has like a greater impact than like his raw assist numbers, if that makes sense. I think it can make a real difference.
And look, if he's going to shoot an above average clip from 3,
which he very much is.
Right. I mean, he doesn't have to stay above, what is he, still north of 50% or whatever?
It's like 45 right now as we record.
57.1 since the trade deadline. He doesn't have to stay. You know what? I'm willing to say he can come off a little bit from 57.1%.
Okay. Like how far, like, you know, what do we need? Like 49? Like
yeah.
his 30?
I mean, look, he's done a little bit better getting some shots going inside the arc, like over the past couple weeks.
Still the,
but yeah.
Really right with him. Okay.
Do you want to do one more pick each?
Yeah, sure. The one has jumped out at me because we haven't talked about this team, and we're at the point in the season where half the league doesn't matter, and this is on the side that matters. So for the Wolves, I want to talk about Donte DiVincenzo. I bet he was the pick last year, and I think he just will be forever because the other 4 starters there and presumable closers, I guess Gobert counts as that, are just known commodities. With maybe the exception of Jaden McDaniels, I guess we could talk about like how much his individual shot creation improvement matters on and on. But DiVincenzo to me is just like, he's their high volume 3-point shooter. He's oftentimes a secondary playmaker. He is, he has a decent sized job defensively and like on the ball, not great. So he has the ability to, for good or ill, impact the game on both sides of the floor. And like, we talked about this earlier today. The Wolves are just like, they've made the last 2 conference finals. They have these, like I said, these known commodities where like McDaniels can guard anybody and Anthony Edwards can win you any game with incredible shot making if you need it. And he guards in the playoffs like few others. And then Rudy Gobert anchors the like there's so much here and there's so much to be like, I just think this team should be in the conference finals again. Cause like, why wouldn't it? What are you picking at? And it's like, maybe the DiVincenzo tier of players that throw Naz Reid and these other guys in there are the ones that are like, you just aren't sure, like if this is going to be like high-end starter production or if it's, he's the weak link, relatively speaking. So I just think, 1, we need to talk about the Wolves a little bit. And 2, I think DiVincenzo just like, he's asked to do so much and I think he will continue to be, even with some of the additions the Wolves have made, like Dosunmu being the big one. And like, I don't know, is Kyle Anderson going to play now that he's ended up there? Like
all these reunions.
Yeah. Good to see. But yeah, so DiVincenzo just is asked to do like a little bit of everything in a way that really matters. And I don't know that he's established like he's going to be great at enough of those things to really to be totally reliable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the big one is they've turned him into just sort of this de facto point guard. But it's not someone that they're going to use.
Which isn't what he is, right?
But it's what they need him to be because it's just I think you give away too much where, okay, Bones Highland's been a cool story. Even having Ayo Dosunmu and the things he could do, you're just maybe giving too much back elsewhere. And I think DiVincenzo is the better ball handler and shooter than Ayo Dosunmu. Yeah. And he is definitely the better defender than Bones Highland. And so if you're looking to kind of like merge the two archetypes, and just knowing you also have Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle as well, it's can he provide enough of, and like Julius Randle facilitates the offense in a different way than a Donte DiVincenzo. So it's can Donte DiVincenzo handle any of the pressure or capitalize on just I know Anthony Edwards hit that ridiculous just like step back corner 3-pointer the other night and then that was funny to Chris Finch. Don't forget about me. That was amazing. But like, look at the attention he's drawing. Can he be the outlet for that in those moments? Not just as a shot maker, but as someone who's going to either keep the ball moving or attack. He's their best option to do it, right? It's that, or because who would be the other pick? I had Ayo Dosunmu on my board, and I'm not going to pick him. I think DiVincenzo's the right name here. Maybe it's Jaden McDaniels because he does more offensively, but I think it's Donte.
You could even say Randall, like because sometimes he can be like a dominant player. And that's your secondary creator anyway, but it's like at this point I think we kind of understand the Randall of it all. Like it just, maybe that's true of DiVincenzo too, I don't know, maybe it should have been Dosunmu because we've never seen him play a meaningful NBA game, and that's an interesting wrinkle to him in the playoffs. Like maybe he just has more, like he could be one of those guys, but I think it's DiVincenzo. But yeah, the Wolves are just the Wolves are a weird team. They like they're almost like a no notes team, but they're not good enough to get the no notes treatment. Maybe it's just like is the thing with the Wolves, like we get it, or we don't get it. I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't know if they're the no notes team, but a team that's this talented or is able to get up or look so good on some nights, and then just you don't trust them. Like so against top 10 teams this year, they're 8-8. So just 500, but they have the league's best offense and a top 10 defense. And yet you're just 500 in those situations. That's just, I don't know. They're tough to figure out. And I feel like they have been this is year 3 of you. I felt like you had a handle on the Wolves. Like at some point every year, like maybe you were wondering, could they reach this ceiling or how far could they fall? But the past 3 years, it's felt for a team that's this good or this problem, like, no, like we should feel better about them, but they're just,
and then they just keep making the conference finals. And then it's like, well, I guess they're just good. So what are we going to talk about? Yeah.
Where do I go next, Grant? I'm going to give you,
this is your last pick. So
I know.
Make it count.
Toronto. I got 4 players, 2 in Detroit, 1 in Cleveland, or 5 players and 2 in Toronto. We just talked about Detroit a bunch on the last pod. So Cleveland or Toronto, which
do Cleveland, because I'm gonna say something controversial and let you know that I could not be less interested in the Raptors. Okay. Make it the Cavs.
So I have Jaylen Tyson, where he was already important to what they were doing post like pre-Harden trade. I would argue that they might not need him to shoot 1,000,000,000% from 3 for the rest of the season. Now that you do have James Harden, it's a good thing because Jaylen Tyson's cooled off a little bit from 3, but he's become just more important to the defense than ever. I know DeAndre Hunter, who's now injured, wasn't some shutdown defender, but had positional size. We're talking about someone who doesn't just need to, he'll need to handle some of the tougher point of attack assignments, but now you're going to have to scale up and guard some bigger wings, because how many minutes can Dean Wade play in that role? When is Max Strus going to play? Dean Wade would have been a good pick too. But
well, no, I think Dean Wade is so related to Tyson. I think that's a great call out. Like Dean Wade's starting. That's the decision now. Like I think Kenny Atkinson is just like, we got James Harden and Donovan Mitchell as I guess let's get bigger. Let's get even bigger. And we don't need any playmaking whatsoever because with those 2 guys. So that seemed to me to be the logic, but yeah, you can't count on Wade to play like a true starters minutes. So,
but Wade is their best wing defender. I'm not forgetting, because Keon Ellis is smaller, Dennis Schroeder is smaller, and then Jaylen Tyson's now number 2. And when you go through, B-Ball Index has grading the matchup difficulties that they face this season. Dean Wade is 1, And then Jaylen Tyson is 2 now on the roster.
Yeah.
But like Jaylen Tyson's played way more minutes. And so this is, I think why it's important is the Cavs are going to finish. I mean, actually, they're 4th now in the East. They'll finish in the top 4. They could get to 2. They could get to 3. But they shouldn't drop. You don't want to see them drop. I know the Raptors are close, but I think they're going to end up in the top 4. Just in the playoffs, it's, well, how much do we trust that he's had a really, really impactful year? And I erroneously said that they should offer him in a first for Jalen Williams at the time when he was going through one of his shooting slumps. I wouldn't make that trade now because he just gives you more on ball, like dynamism than a Jalen Williams would. But Jalen Williams is the better defender right now. I think he has more positional, like he can guard bigger guys. Jalen Tyson, you're going to see more of those matchups now than you even were before. And also just, you want to wonder, well, what does it look like in extensive run with, and we're going to have to wait a little bit or to see peak, depending on what's going on with James Harden's thumb. But he's going to be, in theory, he's less important because of the James Harden trade, but he's also more important because of just the way that their wing rotation is set up. It's you have Dean Wade, and that's basically it.
Yeah, and I think too, like his role will change a lot so part of me likes the idea of him on second units with like Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder as like we're gonna fly around type, like more energetic unit than the starting group. But like if he's out there with like Schroeder just is gonna do most of the ball handling, and like Ellis, he's more of a dependent scorer, but like it's pretty different. Like he'll be asked to do different stuff, and he'll I wonder sometimes if moving him out of the starting lineup is like, is that going to be a net positive for the Cavs? Because like he made a lot of sense he still makes sense as a starter in a lot of ways. Like I guess I just come back to like, I guess they wanted more size to offset I don't really know. I guess, could you make the case though Wade over Tyson at the moment?
Because if you even treat James
Harden, by the way,
I mean, Dean Wade's great. I guess it's an interesting question. What are you worried about? What are you looking to get more of along, because you view James Harden defensively as a forward and you're thinking that Dean Wade infringes?
Well, that's what I mean is like, so if James Harden should be guarding bigger players, then wouldn't you rather have Tyson out there guarding guards as opposed to Wade? Like, I don't know. Wade's in the league and matters because he can guard multiple positions and can make threes. But like, I don't know. It's crazy to be like, well, Harden can't guard backcourt players, so let's get a 6'9" guy on the floor. Honestly, like this is a very much a just asking questions, because I think if it's me, I might have done the same thing and just got Wade out there as like a purely dependent scorer. That part of it makes a lot of sense to me. And you put Tyson's, I guess, superior. Everybody's got superior playmaking to Wade. You put that on the second unit.
I was curious to see what it did look like, but the Tyson, Harden, Mitchell lineups have a defensive rating of 127.
Okay,
which would be in the second percentile. Are you just is it just you think you're okay? James Harden is positionally a forward on defense, but he's not providing the value of one. I mean, Dean Wade, they're in the 29th percentile. When it's James Harden, Donovan Mitchell on the court, they're allowing 118.3 points.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's not that complicated. Maybe it's just like, we don't need any more playmaking. We might as well get a guy that's totally cool if he takes 2 shots in 20 minutes or whatever. Like maybe that's all it is.
Yeah. Did you, before you take us out of here, did you say you wanted to get off a nuclear anti-Raptors take? I don't know. Where's this coming from?
I just as we're looking at the list, like, I'm not interested in this. That was, I guess that's my nuclear take. I just, nothing to say.
Do you have anything else for the kids, or are you ready to take us out of here?
I think that'll do it. Thanks everybody for listening and for watching. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and tell your friends and your enemies, and do all the things. Join our Discord, links in the YouTube and podcast description. Shouts, Frank Ntilikina. Apologies to Jared Allen, who's not an X factor in our hearts.